Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brenda Snow, and I'm back with you this week for another chat and great episode of I Am Patient. So I missed all of you last week, but I do need a break too. So while I missed you, we got prepared for this awesome lady today. And if you're live, you will want to ask lots of questions of her. So get ready to type them in. And if you're watching this later as a taped event, make sure you look, in the history about where you can find out more to connect with this awesome woman. So let me introduce you today to Elyssa Lassiter. It was a lot of alliteration there.
I know.
Elyssa
Love it.
Lassiter is an amazing life coach. She's done other wonderful things in story writing and storytelling and as a journalist. I'm going to let her tell you, but again, her real expertise is the founder of her own life coaching business. And we thought, with all of the strife in the world today, the global health pandemic, we talked 2 weeks ago about the state of race relations. We just thought we needed somebody to help heal our souls this week. So, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I'm so happy that you guys asked me to come today.
Well, you are the best, and I'm glad that you could do
Great.
this and help us out and really add your expertise to everybody that listens and gets something out of this program. So, Elyssa, let's take a step back and tell everybody. I previewed your incredible, expertise that you bring to the table. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, hello everybody. I'm so glad to meet you today virtually. And so, like I said, my name's Elyssa Lassiter, and I'm the lead coach of the Say Life Coach. You'll find me on Facebook in that name, but Say Life Personal Coaching is the name of my coaching company, and we are geared to equipping people with the tools they need to empower themselves in life, confident speaking, business, and through coaching. And I also do that as a coach trainer. So we train coaches through the Say Life Coach Institute. And really, I love seeing like people have like an idea or a dream, something that, maybe they've been sitting on the back burner for a while, and really just getting that out into the forefront and actually seeing it come to life. So that's what I do. I love it. And it's just really, really cool just to hear. And I know you guys at Snow Companies are all about the stories and what people share from their heart. And so that's one thing that I've been able to do as life coach as well, which I'm super grateful for.
You are,
And
and
it's,
I
oh,
no, and I think what's so cool is the perspective. Like, I know I've met other life coaches that are also phenomenal, but I think like all of your perspectives and experiences, and you've interviewed President Jimmy Carter, and you've helped, prostitutes leave, a
mm,
prostitution ring and kind of mainstream back into life in your career as a journalist. So don't you think like it's being able to sort of understand all of life's circumstances?
yes. And, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's actually been a while since I had a chance to document their, emerging from one type of lifestyle to really just really doing their thing and living to their just full potential. And that's one thing that I love to see as a coach too, is just the transformation of people. And I got to do that. I got to see and document people's transformation as a journalist, being there when, some people may have gotten some really bad news, and or being there to see how they've been able to get justice for their loved one who needed it, or even being there when somebody did something really cute and funny, online. I mean, it just really just ranged the just to see the different types of transformations. And I think one thing that's important for us to know is that transformations can come in so many different shapes and forms. And certainly I know many of us have been like cooped up at home, and just to kind of ask ourselves, like, what kind of transformation can we make as we emerge from this period of quarantine and now coming out?
I agree. So let's kind of boil that down. So I think over the course, we started this back in early March, and
Mhm.
everybody was quarantined. We talked about fear and how fear can sort of paralyze you in lots of ways, and now we're sort of coming out of this lockdown, but the coronavirus is still there and there's new hot spots and, people are unemployed. People have, or if they're not unemployed, they're working from home and they're trying to work from home and juggle kids. And so, like, what would your advice be to people that are feeling like they maybe don't know their purpose anymore, or overwhelmed with, all the incoming that seems to be, in the news every day?
Yeah. So step one, just breathe. Actually, let's just take a breath right now if you're okay with that. Whew. Yes. So I really feel like that's step one, because sometimes we don't even get in touch with that gift that we have just to take a breath. And I think sometimes, as we know, it's sometimes hard to go out to eat or go to the store without having to put on two pairs of gloves and a mask, or all those kinds of things that we may have really taken for granted. So step one is to always just kind of operate from a place of gratitude. And then, ask the right questions, certainly, and get back in touch with some of those things that we love. And like you said, some of us may be caregivers today. We may be, many of us dealing with chronic illnesses. Some of us may be, working multiple jobs, trying to kind of navigate this whole thing. And we really don't have time to do just that. Breathe. And so if you can just take a second, maybe those of you who are watching, if you've been feeling stressed and hurried and hectic lately, just take a moment just to do that. And then kind of get back in touch with some of the things that you love. I like to envision this. This is something that we do with our Say Life family. We envision this cardboard box, and inside this cardboard box, we just place all those restrictions, all of those hesitations, fears, those things that have been holding us back. And we put them in this box just for a moment. And I always tell us we can come back to it later, because trust me, they'll still be there. But just for a minute, ask yourself, okay, what's something that I've done before that really just brought me joy? What's something that makes me smile, that helps me feel happy? And so I think that's the first few steps to really getting back in touch with some of those passions. And I think too, this time of quarantine, maybe not being able to do some of the same things in the same way that people may have been used to doing them, has really given us a chance just to kind of take a look at some of those things that have been sitting on the back burner. And one of those things that I ask our Stay Life family members when they share their dreams and visions with me, because I tell them I do not take it lightly that people would share that with me. I ask, how long has it been back there? And hey, that can be a question for all of you who are watching today. How long has that dream been back there? And sometimes, it doesn't seem too long, but when they say, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years, it's been 30 years, and that, those types of things I've heard, it's just really good just to kind of look at that right in the face to see if that would be worth taking off the back burner.
That's great advice, and I think that everybody can, that resonates. I mean, it resonates with me. So I guess my question would be, because I've even felt this. So how do you take that and help them through "it's my biggest dream" to actioning it,
Yeah.
and moving it toward a reality based, that you're fulfilling that? Like, what's that advice look like?
Yes. So number one, get real. Like, we all see the little emoji with the 100 on it, get 100 with yourself. Because sometimes we may not really get real with some of those goals and dreams that we have, because, oh, well, I want to do it, but I don't think I could, or, oh, I don't have the resources. Oh, sometimes we talk ourselves out of the things that we truly do want. And so I think it's important to be able to discern, am I talking myself out of something that I truly do want? Or, am I being cautious? And if you do find yourself being cautious, kind of answer those fear questions. And, different strokes for different folks. This may work for you personally, but I'll share with you something that helped me. I remember I was planning my first conference, and this was, and I've shared with you, Brenda, I, was caring for my mom before she transitioned, and she passed in January of 2019. And so before she had to stop her work and kind of care for her health, and take care of her health, this was something that she loved to do. And so for some reason, I kind of had that bug too, but I was writing and typing all these ideas. And then all of a sudden, those fear questions started kind of creep in. Well, let's see, you've never done this before. Oh my gosh, you're right. Here I am at 3 a.m. having this conversation with myself. And I noticed my fingers stopped. And all of a sudden, these ideas that were just firing off paused. And I felt like I was being led to write down the things that scared me. I was like, "Oh, God, I don't want to write down those things. Those are scary." And I said, okay, well, you know what? Let me look at these things right in the face. And that's what I did. And then I came up with answers to these fear questions.
That's
Mind
good.
you, and mind you, I think my husband was like asleep on the other side of the bed. So he's probably like, "What's he doing? I don't know." Dog is like, "What's happening?" But I start writing out these answers. And then those fears kind of looked a little bit small when I combined them with my why, with my reasons for doing these things. And I'm glad to say that I did not sit on that particular dream because who knows, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, to kind of come face to face with those fears, come face to face with them. They may be scary, but when you answer them with faith, when you answer them with reason, when you answer them with good ideas, that's when they appear a little bit smaller, and then you can kind of take that next step. So for me, that was my first action step. And in coaching, we're all about action. Certainly getting in touch with the why, getting in touch with the reason, but not just that. Because I know some of us, we may get a whole lot of training and schooling and we read all these kinds of books, but what do we do with it? And
Hmm.
so I think that's my challenge for everybody today is, of course, get the knowledge, learn, but now what are we going to do? And I say it not like, what are we going to do now? It's like, yay, what are we going to do now? So,
That's wonderful advice, and I think that that fear of failure, it is
mhm,
paralyzing, and it's totally normal for everybody. But I think if you don't try, you'll never know.
yeah.
And also, I've said this to colleagues, friends, ambassadors, people in my 20 years of also starting a business, that
Yes.
failure is also okay because it's
Mhm,
how you learn. It's
yeah.
it's like, well, this didn't work. Let's sort of evaluate that and go through why it didn't work. And oftentimes I have found the things that I failed at have brought me to a place where it was like, oh,
Yeah.
it does make success. So I think, like,
Yeah.
don't be too hard on yourself. If it
Mhm,
does, if whatever it is,
mhm,
whether it's reconciling a relationship to
yeah.
something in business, that sometimes it's not always hunky dory, and that's okay.
Yes. And I want to just kind of say, I totally, admire you as an entrepreneur and as a leader. And
Thank
I
you.
just think, yeah, it's so cool to see what you've, been able to build. And I agree. Sometimes and I tell our Say Life family members, those L's, those losses are actually lessons. And so when we kind of look at those losses as lessons, um,
I love that.
yeah, thank you. They don't seem so, big and scary. And we truly do learn from those things.
Yeah, that's so great. So if you guys have a question for the fabulous Elyssa Lassiter, please write them down, and you're going to get her amazing advice, and she'll do the best she can to answer this. And again, if you want to connect with her after this program, you'll see there on our Snow Company's website ways to connect with her and all of our previous fabulous guests. We've had a lot of really incredible people that are a part of this community. So do that. So tell me a little bit about, sort of the areas that you're focusing on now with your I Say Life coaching
Yes,
business, um, kind of why you decided to become this life coach. I know that, there's a kind of an accreditation that you have, which is different than I think maybe
sure.
some people necessarily in the field. So talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to ask you the
Yeah.
questions that everybody wants to know.
Ooh, I'm
How to
ready.
make
Yeah,
us
I
all
love
better.
that.
Fix us all.
I love it. Well, yes. So, like I said, my coaching practice, Say Life Personal Coaching, we focus primarily on mindset coach for entrepreneurs. So we help those who say, you know what, I've always wanted to do something, but I just don't know what. I have this gift inside, I have this calling, and I'm really just trying to see how to bring that out, how to give it some structure, and really how to get this gift out inside of me, outside of me. There we go,
Yep.
inside and getting it out. So mindset coaching for entrepreneurs. And then I also help individuals, just kind of general life coaching as well. All of our Say Life family members aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. Maybe they're feeling stuck. Maybe they're just ready to see
Yeah.
what that new thing is for them in their lives. And they're just really trying to get past some of those barriers. And I think it's I really commend and I admire our Say Life family members when they say, hey, you know what? I'm holding myself back. I'm in my own way and I'm trying to get out of it and I need some assistance. And so I really admire that. And like I mentioned, also, we do have the Say Life Coach Institute where we train individuals who say, you know what, I want to get this gift out of me and I want to do it in the way of coaching. And so that's one thing that we do as well. And so we take people through our 4.5 week program. It has been approved by the International Coach Federation, which is the gold standard of coaching, and one of the most world renowned coaching bodies out there. So
Great.
we are, thank you. So yes, we are approved by them, and our coaches have a big coach debut, a virtual coach debut, due to the current situation, but it actually works out. So our folks can participate from different cities or states, and actually we have a coach in the UK. So
That's great.
yes, so it's very cool. And certainly some of our coaches are veterans, they are healthcare workers, they are, parents, they're, clergy members, they're all kinds of, come from all different types of backgrounds. And some people may think, oh, well, I don't want to start a coaching practice. Well, you don't necessarily have to. Some people may be a manager at work, maybe they're active in ministry and they're really just trying to connect with their teammates in a different way. And so that's one thing that we really specialize in. So yes, so that's what I do. And I tell you what, just being able to connect with these individuals, I'm the coach, so I'm supposed to be like, yeah, come on, you got. But when I walk away from our sessions, I feel like inspired and empowered
Yeah.
and happy. And so it is just truly just an exchange of some really amazing energy there.
I agree with you. I feel that way, with all of the people in sort of the snow orbit and in our
Yes,
community. Like I've had so many times over the years that people have said, "Thank you so much. You inspire." But I always feel that I'm the lucky and blessed one that I've
yes,
gotten tenfold anything that I've ever given. So, you do know that, we, like, I have a chronic illness, I have MS, and that we
mhm,
work with a lot of patients and families living with everything from a rare disease to uh, 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 an oncology disease, a lot of neurology, immunology. And what advice would you say? Because I think the lens sometimes is different. Like we're just like everybody else. But I think sometimes when you live with a serious medical condition, in a lot of cases where there's no cure in sight,
mhm,
that carries a big burden. I mean, it is
yeah,
hard to be, you know, on positive, looking forward. I mean, there's a lot of bumps in the road that you can't control at
yeah,
all. So, like,
especially with the physical aspect of
totally. So, like, I think what would be sort of your, your coaching wisdom, some of the things that you would say that, we should be mindful of.
it. Yeah, I think the very first thing, and I feel like this is a message that we both share, is that you're not alone. And I know sometimes, especially going through certain things physically, emotionally, it may feel isolating. But I just want to remind everybody that you're truly not alone. And it's interesting, especially in this age of social distancing and physical distancing and not being able to go places, that in turn, we've kind of almost been more intentional about connecting, albeit online. Now, certainly, it's definitely not the same as giving a hug or a high five or a handshake. But still, I do feel that, especially now, we've been more intentional about connecting. And so I think it is important, one, that people listen. I think that's, overall. And in coaching, we really learn about the importance of empathy, and really learn how important it is. Empathy and sympathy are two different things,
Oh,
but
go
in,
over that. I mean, I
yeah,
think we all
sure.
know it, but I remember when
Yeah.
somebody said that to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So go over that empathy and
Sure.
sympathy.
Yes. So sympathy, and Brene Brown, I love her work. She's a researcher and she put it in a really great way. So I'm going to try my best to kind of paraphrase it. Sympathy is, just imagine somebody is going through something and they're just in this really dark pit of their lives. Sympathy is kind of leaning over in the pit. And we Southern folks have heard this before. Oh, bless your heart. That's so terrible. And then you just kind of go off on your merry way. Empathy is when you take your ladder, you climb down there, you pop up a lawn chair and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't I don't know exactly, maybe I don't even know what to say, or maybe I've never been through what you're going through, but I just want to let you know I'm here with you. And you're not alone in this." And so I think too, when we're talking about chronic illnesses and, maybe you've gotten that bad news, or maybe you've seen that test result that is really difficult for you right now, um, or maybe a loved one has, and you're trying to figure out the right words to say. And I'll quote Brene when she said, "Really, a response is going to make anything better, but it's connection." And so I think that's really important, just to be reminded that that connection is important, especially if somebody's going through something. And it's kind of second nature for us to say, "Oh, I know exactly what that's like." And, perhaps you have a similar experience, but, even in the situation of, being there for my mom during her transition and passing and everything, someone else who may have lost a parent say, "Oh, I know exactly what you're going through," but maybe not. Or maybe I could share that with someone and say, "Well, oh, that happened to me. I know exactly what," but maybe not, because the connection, because the relationships, the dynamics may have been different. So it's kind of second nature for us to try to put a silver lining on things, or try to, kind of
Mhm.
minimize how someone's feeling, because sometimes it's uncomfortable to hear that bad news, or to hear that difficulty that someone's going through. And I think even, we could even apply this to what's going on in our community with the social injustices and the things that are happening, is to just listen. Um,
Mhm.
and listening for the sake of listening, not trying to hurry up and craft a response, or to think, and I know some of us who may have been, will put this in heated exchanges with our, friends or spouses or family members, and they're saying something, and you just hooked onto that, like one thing they say, and meanwhile your gears are turning, trying to see, ooh, as soon as they stop talking, then I'm really gonna, say what's on my mind. But not taking that road, and just truly just listening for the sake of listening. And sometimes that's difficult, but it's intentional. And you think that maybe listening is not a very active process, but it really is. And it's an intentional process. So just how we're being intentional about connecting right now, we need to be intentional about listening as well.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And I probably will maybe go back and say maybe I shouldn't have disclosed this on the program or said this, but I will tell you exactly what you are describing, just happened to me, because I, was talking to one of my colleagues who is an African American woman. She's a very, very holds a very high position in our organization. And I was just distraught over everything that we're seeing on television and in the world, and saying, what can I do? Like, I
Mhm.
want to listen. I want to listen, and what can I do? But I immediately found myself going to a place of saying, because I'm a woman that's, a
Mhm.
minority, who has a chronic illness, which is like a minority, who's been sexually harassed, and
Yeah.
and I wasn't listening enough. And she said to me, all those things are true
Mhm.
about what has happened to you and what you're bringing to the table, but it's not the same as what's happened to me and my people. And I know, like, you're trying to, like, it's a bridging thing. You're wanting to find that common
Mhm.
connection,
Yeah.
but it is different. And I was like, that's really, I get it. It's
Mm.
just right now about listening to how you are feeling, and having that moment and saying, I don't need to try to make this instant connection, because if I just listen, we have it. And,
Mm.
it's something that I hadn't really thought about on the way you just described it. So thank you for sharing that, because
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think it's really a really, really important one. And particularly now. And
Mhm.
also, when, like you said, when we can't hug anymore, we can't do anything but Zoom each other
I
and
know.
look like this, that, I mean, it is, it's a part of humanity.
Yeah.
It is kind of missing. So listening even becomes a more important skill, I feel.
Yeah. First
Yeah.
of all, I take my hat off to you, and I commend you, Brenda, because for some people, they take that lesson, or it's difficult for them to accept that lesson. And so for you to truly say, you know what, I just, out of the goodness of my heart, I tried to relate in this way. And and it translated in a different way. But for you guys to have that open conversation, like, I just appreciate that. I really do. And I think that's truly what it's all about. And even in coaching, we learn about this, because sometimes when our clients are sharing things with us, it's second nature to be like, oh my gosh, girl, I understand. Or, oh, your kid's on 10, mine are on 20,000, just trying to find a way to connect. And sometimes it may in turn unintentionally, sometimes for some unintentionally, minimize the experience, or it may kind of, we think of it as a way to empathize, but it may also minimize that experience. So, just truly just being open-minded and listening, I think is key. And so it just, and I'm just really happy just to hear that you guys were able to have that open conversation and still walk away and be cool with each other, because sometimes, unfortunately, you see some people try to start these conversations, and it leads into dissension, or not, or
It's
discord
true.
and like that. And so
It's
I
true.
think, if more people took that route, then I think, that we would definitely be able to have more conversations like this, which would ultimately lead to action, and certainly
I
it's
agree. Look at,
action.
we can solve all the world's problems, girl. I love it.
Yay!
All right. So again, if anybody wants to type in a question, do it now. Tony wants you to know great timely advice. So you've got a fan
Mm,
out there,
thank
Elyssa.
you, Tony.
Also, what kind of inspired you to pursue this path and move from that place of can I do it to getting it done? That was another
Yes.
question.
Oh, of being a coach, I would.
Yeah, it
So,
inspired
okay.
you to do it.
Yeah, so it's very funny. I remember when I was working in journalism, I had a really hard day, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I said, I want to be a life coach. True transparency here, guys. I didn't even know what a life coach did at that point, but it was almost something like, I feel it was like a God breathed thing. Like, okay, I want to be a life coach. Okay, cool. So it took a while for that dream to translate. And honestly, and they say in coaching, every coach needs a coach, every mentor needs a mentor, every, all leader needs a leader, and I feel like had I had someone to kind of share that with, then maybe that would have kind of helped me cultivate that goal a little bit earlier, but that's okay. And so my husband deployed, and I was able to go and spend some time with my mom, which I was super grateful for. And that's when I started doing my research. And I realized some of the shifts that I had to make personally. Sometimes we may get, down, and we may feel offended, or we may feel, insecure, or all those kind of those icky things that we feel. But we have to realize when we feel those things, they're actually teaching us something. So try to say, okay, insecurity, what are you telling me about myself right now? Okay, fear, what are you trying to say? Not let them drive. You're in the back seat. Okay, I hear you. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna drop you off.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to make some of those shifts, some of those personal shifts in my life, I realized that I could help other people make them too. And so that's what really, got it up and out. And I tell my coaches, my Say Life coaches who are in my program, when I first started, I hit a speed bump. I didn't know how to code my website the right way. And I was like, I'm just gonna pick it back up later. But I had some of those extrinsic motivators, those things that said, hey, you need to do this now. And the intrinsic ones too, the ones on the inside. And I said, okay, my first step, my first website may not be perfect, but it surely won't be perfect if I don't post something, if I don't put it out there in the open. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes with our goals and dreams, we get into that analysis paralysis stage, and we want to make it perfect.
Yeah, that's let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you, honey, I've had that.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, there's people that still know. They're like, oh my God, the perfectionist, crazy woman. But as I've gotten older, I've just let it go. I mean,
yeah.
it's just not worth the time. Yeah.
I tell people, give the little hand raise emoji or the high five emoji if you've been in analysis paralysis before, because that is real. Like, that
Yeah.
is real. So,
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
So I can't believe it's almost at the bottom of the hour
Oh my
already. I don't
God.
know. Maybe if we work together, you could make me skinny one day. I don't know.
You look fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. But no, in all seriousness, there's another question about goal setting. Um,
Yeah.
where do you tell people to start and to sit down and how to make their goals and
Hmm.
work toward achieving them? Is
Yes.
it as simple as a list?
You know, again, different strokes for different folks. And as a coach, I really do work with the individual to see what's going to work best for them. Maybe for some people, it's taking notes on their phone. Maybe for some people, it's writing in a notebook or a gratitude journal or something like that. But I feel like there's something special about putting pen to paper. So I can, share with the person who asked that question. That's kind of where I start. I start by putting some pen to paper. And just really getting clear and getting clear, and again, we talked earlier about that cardboard box. Sometimes we have to kind of set those restrictions off to the side, because it's like, oh, well, I really want to do this, but, and it keeps us from really just getting it out there. Because sometimes, who knows? Maybe there will be, your ram in the bush that will kind of give you an opportunity to do this, or a way that you never expected. So that would be my number one. And I'll kind of talk about some. I know we're running out of time, but
No,
I'll
it's
talk.
okay. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I'll talk about like some long-term goals, and then I'll talk about like some short-term goals. Well, with the short-term goals, like say for example, I want to clean the house. I want to, mow the lawn. I want to organize my closet and do all those kinds of things. I like to have a list, me personally, because it's going on up in here and it's ping-ponging and back and forth in my head, and then I feel overwhelmed. So for me, it helps when I can take the stuff that's going on up in here, put it somewhere else, and then sometimes I'll say, oh, okay, that's not that bad. Okay, oh, it's just, just a few things, or, these are just the things that I need to take care of. And then, especially for those who may be experiencing like procrastination, I've been there, you know, just to kind of get in touch with the why. Like say,
Yeah.
okay, this is why I need to get it done. And also to get in touch with what will happen if you don't get it done. So if you
Yeah.
don't get it done, oh, okay, cool. Okay, the repercussions aren't that great. All right, whatever. Maybe I can put this a little further down on my list. But if that repercussion can outweigh your why, like, oh man, if I don't get this done, this will happen. Generally that kind of helps kind of spur that movement. And then also have grace with yourself. Sometimes we, just want to get everything done all, in one day, and we may not kind of factor in, well, oh man, the kids are really, they're going to
Yeah. Or
need,
if you don't
I'm
feel
going to,
well, or
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And, certainly for those who may be experiencing chronic conditions, maybe you're tired, maybe you have to take a little rest or something like that. And so just to be mindful of those things as well. So like I said, get it clear about it, put pen to paper, get your why, and also your repercussions, what may occur if I don't do these things, and then have grace with yourself. I think that's just number one. We're one person. We can generally do one thing at a time. I know we try to do lots of things at one time, but generally, we can do one thing at a time. And yeah, and really get in touch with that reason, why it's so important that you do that. And then too, that it may look different for different people. And I've mentioned this before, for some folks, organization looks like, our activities are on a little pegboard and everything's color coded. And for some people, organization just looks like, hey, I would like to put my shoes in, on the little rack at the end of the day, or I'd like to, get my clothes from the laundry bin to the
Yeah.
closet.
Yeah.
So also really define what success means for you, not for somebody else, not for what people maybe, on Pinterest, but what does success look like for you personally? And that can kind of give you a little guideline.
I've got a great question for you, and I know who
Yeah.
this is from, and she's the most lovely woman in the whole world.
Yeah.
So Kathy wants to know, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is. How how do
Mhm.
we deal with having to leave a very long-term successful career and get past the fear of trying a new pathway?
Wow. First of all, I want to say, you go, Kathy. Way to go for yes, for even, kind of getting back in touch with that goal that you have. And it can certainly be scary. It can be scary. And I think kind of the suggestion that I gave earlier, kind of, write your reasons for wanting to do this. Why is it so important to you? Get in touch with, and these are questions that I ask in our coaching sessions. What would it mean for you to be able to have XYZ, or to do XYZ, or become, whatever that is that you're aiming to do. And then also to ask that scary question, what would happen if I never took a step? What would
Mhm.
happen if I never used this gift that I have inside? Um, yeah. And so I think that's like the first step to be mindful of. And then, of course, kind
And
of
I
get
and I
yourself.
also think,
Yeah,
what
go ahead.
happens if I stay, right? Like, I
Mm,
don't think anybody should ever stay in a situation, and it's scary because sometimes it might be paying the bills or whatever, but that
yeah.
is like sucking your soul, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not good to stay in something like that.
Yes. And I think sometimes maybe it's because of how, parents did certain things or grandparents did certain things or siblings or, we just kind of
Generational.
may. Yeah, and so we don't know that maybe there's a different way that we can go about it. And this is a quote, lots of quotes from other people that have been very helpful to me. Marie Forleo, she said, everything is figure outable. So there is a way, where there's a, well, I guess you can say where there's a will, there's a way. We've all heard that quote before, but try to find other ways to figure it out. Maybe leaving your job and going after your dream, or leaving, your company and going for this job, this dream job that you've always wanted to have, or, it may not make sense to other people and maybe you don't have the support, but that's not their vision to see. It's your vision. And sometimes, um, people may not get it, and that's okay. And I think too that kind of maybe what keeps some people in certain situations, and we call it, some people may call it being stuck. Um, it's okay if other people don't see your vision the way that you do, because it is truly your vision. And certainly find some support. And I think
Yes.
again, this is a message that you guys are so really about as well. Finding that support, finding
Hmm.
somebody who
Don't be
says,
afraid to
"Okay,
ask for help. Yeah.
yes, don't be afraid to ask for help." And certainly, as a coach, a lot of people, I'm that person for a lot of people. And I love being that person for a lot of people because, we may share our dream or our goal with a family member or a friend. And it's like, yeah, I'm super excited. And they're like, oh, you really want to do that? Why do you want to do that? And then it almost kind of dims our spark that we have. So yeah, that would be, some of my first steps. Really getting in touch, Kathy, getting in touch with what this would mean for your life, what would this would mean for maybe your family, or this dream, this goal, and also kind of get in touch with what will happen if I never move forward. What will happen if I don't take the step? And then certainly you can, get an accountability partner and certainly work with a coach or something like that,
Hmm.
and kind of come up with that strategy. For some
Hmm.
people, well, I will say this: pretty much everything is a risk,
Hmm.
but there's different levels to it. But kind of coming up with that strategy. Okay, so in 3 months, this is what I need to do. Okay, if I'm walking away from this situation, what are honestly, like, hey, what are my income goals? What are my
Yeah.
goals for my lifestyle? And to get clear about that, so you'll have a roadmap.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I've often, over the years, when I've mentored like young entrepreneurs or people that want to go start something, I've often said, because again, there's a financial piece, there's healthcare, there's benefits, and they're
Mhm.
afraid to walk away from it. And I've often said to people over the years, take the exact advice you gave. I think it's the best advice, and start to put that plan in place, so maybe you're working, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but,
Mhm.
you kind of you're kind of figuring it out while you still got
Mhm.
the security of
Yeah.
this going on. So,
Mhm.
and then it gets you sort of your confidence up. And when you've got sort of your roadmap and you've laid out the groundwork, rip the band-aid off and go do it. And don't,
Yeah.
sort of double dip anymore or stay here, but put that plan
Keep
together
moving.
while you've got this safety net, and then hit the ground running. We've got
Yeah.
another question here. Okay. Let's see. Let me tell you. All right. During quarantine, we have so much time to do self introspection. How do you coach people to stay driven, keep themselves and
in check
in
and remember to
in
breathe and have
in
time for
check, and
themselves.
remember to have time for themselves?
Yes,
I can talk
absolutely.
faster than my producer can write. How's that?
I love it. That's great. But yeah, so really just kind of, staying motivated in this time of, being inside and things like that. And, for everybody, it's different. Kind of my take on that is I wanted to, the butterfly, or excuse me, the caterpillar, it goes into its cocoon and there's a lot going on in the cocoon on the
Mm-hmm.
outside. Like, what's this? It's just, plain cocoon. And then by the time this butterfly emerges, it's been going through a lot. There's been a lot of different things that have been happening inside that chrysalis, or cocoon. And so, to kind of look at it, how can I emerge from different? How can I grow through this time? How can I kind of take something that's kind of icky, that's not the best situation, that's not very fun, and how can I, um, you know, come out bigger and better, from this situation. And so the way that I share with my Say Life family members about staying encouraged, and it really, I probably sound like a broken record, but it truly is getting in touch with that why, getting in touch with your reason. Because how many of us have kind of gotten up and said, "Oh, I gotta do this again," or "Oh,
Yeah.
and you kind of, I know, right? And you ask that question, but that you kind of continue to do some of the same things. So one, get in touch with your why. Two, answer those tough questions that you find yourself asking. And then three, ask the right questions. If you always say, "Oh my gosh, can I do this?" Instead of asking, "Can you do it?" Ask, "How can I do this?" So kind of changing the narrative in our own minds,
Yeah.
because we're the most convincing people that we know, and kind of what's going on in the soundtrack of your mind, because we're talking, there's something going on up in here. So how can we kind of change that, so that we will kind of move into the direction that we want to go? So that's kind of like your compass. So be mindful of those conversations. I tell our Say Life family members, when it's just you and God and nobody else, what are those conversations that you're telling what are those things that you're telling yourself? So
That's
that's one of
good.
the ways that we do that. And then also just, certainly accountability helps. Excuse me, accountability, being able just to say, "Hey, you know what? You told me that you were going to be, getting this action step done by the end of the week. How is that coming?" And again, kind of going back to support, making sure that you have somebody who's going to call you. No, Elyssa, no, you told me you were going to jog a mile a day. And it's like, "Oh, I understand that." But you go out there and you jog your mile, or do
Right.
your push-ups, or
That's
whatever it
right.
is for yourself.
Well,
So
this has been an incredible conversation. I can't believe it's, we usually are like at 15 minutes, maybe 30. We're at already 41 minutes.
wow,
But I think it'd be great to have you as a reoccurring guest. So
yay! I would love
we
to.
can talk offline about that, because I know that there's, more questions that are coming in. So everybody, next time you see that we are going to have this fabulous woman on, get your questions, because we can't answer them all today. But again, if you go to the Snow Company's webpage, which is, I guess, is where you are now, on Facebook, you can see how to connect with the amazing Elyssa Lassiter, and all of her information is there. Again, it's I Say Life Coaching. You've been a tremendous, tremendous guest, and I could talk to you for forever. So,
Yeah,
my
same.
heart is with you. You're just a wonderful person, and I'm so happy to reconnect with you. And everybody, next week you're going to want to join us. We're talking to a really incredible healthcare professional. She's an oncology certified nurse, and she was also at the front lines having to switch and take care of COVID patients. So you'll want to definitely listen to next week when we're going to talk to Kelsey Flynn. So again, if you want to leave us with a parting comment, I'll leave the floor to you, and I'll see all of you next week. So you can
Yes.
wrap us up, Elyssa.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, Brenda, the work that you are doing and the work that Snow Companies is doing is amazing. And I just want to commend you guys for what you do, and you're truly changing
You too.
lives. Yes. And I am just super grateful to have this conversation. And, you know, I always tell people, don't forget those gifts and those dreams and those goals that God's placed inside of your heart. And especially when you may face those challenges, to always remember what that feels like to be there, to get those goals out, inside of you. And just a really quick anecdote: my mom, as I mentioned, she transitioned, she passed, and I found some of her notes. Some of her plans that she had written, and for her conference that she was planning when she started to have those health challenges. And I got really happy because I got to see her handwriting and hold the paper that she wrote on. But, I also got a pang of sadness because she didn't get to carry them out in that way. And so my message to you, and actually, I'm looking at her picture right now, it's on my desk, is don't carry those dreams and goals to the grave with you, and have the chance to work them out, to walk them out while you're here. And I'm grateful to get to carry on those dreams and goals of hers. And part of that is the conversation we're having today. So thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mwah. I love you. So
Same,
that's
same.
great. So I hope all of you were inspired too. Thanks for being a part of our family. And again, any ideas or things you want us to tackle on the show, we'll do our best. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye, Elyssa.
Bye, Brenda.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's great.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.